Hey, Joe Walsh here. Are they meeting? You know what, President Trump? Follow your gut. Your gut is usually spot on. We'll talk about it when Freedom returns at 5.
Good morning, Dan and Amy, and a special election tomorrow in Pennsylvania for the seat vacated by scandal-plagued Tim Murphy. Republican seat. It was in Republican hands. It was a seat that Trump won easily in the presidential election.
He won by 20 points.
This is an example of an area that Trump won that buoyed him to the presidency and helped him carry Pennsylvania, for that matter, which buoyed him to the presidency. But it's a statistical dead heat this time around, this against the backdrop of a string of Democrat pickups in special elections. And Trump rallied the troops and was his
what?
Colorful?
Yeah.
Quote,
He's
unquote,
in campaign mode.
Self. He was giving out nicknames yesterday or over the weekend, including to Meet the Press's Chuck Todd.
You ever see the story where it's 1999. I'm on Meet the Press, a show now headed by Sleepy Eyes Chuck Todd. He's a sleeping son of a bitch, I'll tell you.
And that had Tom Brokaw was all mad and it was disrespectful.
Oh, no.
It's unlike the office of the presidency.
You don't make fun of Chuck Todd. You don't make fun of Chuck Todd and live to tell about it. You make fun of Chuck Todd once.
Chucksters. Yeah.
The Chuck Todd then donned the cloak of the indignant vanguard of American culture, talking to the lifelike Steve Mnuchin on Meet the Press over the weekend.
He's not going to take it sitting down.
Yeah.
Does this mean this American president is no longer going to be preaching about the values of freedom of the press and democracy around the world?
Of course he believes in freedom of the press and democracy around the world, and he believes more importantly in protecting democracy around the world, and that's what we should be focused on.
But what about the kids, Steve? What do we tell the children?
Many people, including myself, raise their kids to respect the office of the presidency and the president of the United States. When he uses vulgarity to talk about individuals, what are they supposed to tell their kids?
Again, I'll be with my kids this morning, and I'll be focused on them on what the president is doing to protect the United States, its citizens, and more importantly,
his economy. So he's not immoral. Don't worry about his values. Don't worry about him as a role model.
I've never said that whatsoever, so I don't know why you're putting these words in what I'm trying to say.
Mm-hmm.
Chuck Todd, what do you tell your kids?
Steve Mnuchin and his kids spend quality time on Sundays plotting supply and demand curves.
Exactly. Of course. What else would they be doing, Dan?
I don't know, but
I mean, really.
Look, I don't like the way that Trump talks sometimes. I think the use of profanity is beneath the office. It's unnecessary.
But it's an act. I mean, he's like the reality TV star. He gets the crowds going. He works with the people.
But
you know what I mean? To get them.
But the silliness of Chuck Todd. Baseness for the base coming for Trump is part of the culture that the D.C. press corps has begotten. And now you're going to be, are you upset when Tom Perez goes on his goodwill tour?
And swears.
Dropping F-bombs and S-bombs and Kamala Harris and others. It was working for Trump, so let's do it. This is the monkey see, monkey do of the political ruling class, and the D.C. press corps is attendant to that. So, excuse me if I'm not persuaded by Chuck Todd's effort to occupy the moral high ground. For more on the special election and the rallies in Western PA over the weekend, we're pleased to be joined again by our friend Salena Zito, Washington Examiner reporter, New York Post columnist, and CNN contributor. Salena, thanks for joining us. Appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, you had an interesting piece since you're Pittsburghian. Is that right? Pittsburghian?
I live in the district, actually.
Oh, you do?
Oh.
So in addition to being an expert on the, politics generally,
you get to vote.
You're on the ground there, so you have particular insight, and you wrote an interesting piece for the Examiner about how whatever happens tomorrow isn't necessarily a canary in the coal mine for November.
Yeah, and I also wrote a piece from the event, and the cable news networks and the national news networks, they picked off the most insidious things that they said, that he said, and he always says it. I'm not, like you said, I'm never comfortable with the whole swearing thing. But, what's missing was how excited and how energized the people were that were at the place. You couldn't put another body in the room, and there were a couple thousand people that were turned away at the door. Wow. So people were happy and excited. If you've ever gone to a Trump event, before as people stand in line, it's like a tailgate party. People bring chairs. They're filled with families. So I wanted to make sure people understand exactly what the people were like attending the event. This election for me, it's hard to say it's a harbinger because there's so many different varying components to it. Well, first of all, the district doesn't exist anymore because the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court threw out all of our congressional lines and redrew all of them to favor Democrats. So the district does not even exist anymore. So even when these two men go to battle on tomorrow, they will be running in different seats for a primary 6 weeks later. So that's kind of put a damper on for both sides to show up for this race.
So
second of all, Connor Lamb is running very much like a Republican. He is, in fact, there's very little difference between him and Saccone in their ads, except Connor is young and charming, and Rick is not.
Okay.
Not that bad.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Well, is Connor Lamb the new model Democrat?
Well, see, that's the danger I think that Democrats take away from it. I think he's the model Democrat for that type of district. But I'm very cautious about believing Democrat primary voters will pick Connor Lamb in this world because Connor wasn't picked in a primary. He was appointed. And so, yes, in a swing district like Pennsylvania 18, Democrats should definitely pick candidates that more resemble the constituents. Pretty moderate on everything. But I'm not convinced that the people that go to primary races are the ones that would pick someone that is moderate. I suspect they're the ones that are more part of the resistance.
Yeah, well,
Connor Lamb has not once criticized Donald Trump, not once.
Yeah, it's interesting because we have a similar dynamic going on here in the near south and southwest side of the city with Dan Lipinski facing a hard left primary challenge, and he's in a dead heat right now, too, because he's not part of the resistance.
Right.
Let me ask you a question, though, too. Just I want to punctuate the thing you said about this district doesn't exist anymore because of the decisions that have come down on the Pennsylvania congressional map. So in 6 months, this becomes a much more Republican district, doesn't it? So is this all just...
It got chopped up.
Okay.
So Lamb is in one district, and Saccone is in a different district.
But I mean, but you don't have to live in the district to represent it. There's no residency requirement at the congressional level. So,
right, but it's almost impossible to actually win in those kinds of situations.
But I guess in the new district, I mean, are we talking about the new district is going to be a Republican district, or how does that likely shake out? Regardless of what happens tomorrow.
I don't even know where the new 18th is. It's not here. It's somewhere else.
Okay.
That's how screwy this is.
That's confusing.
They changed all the numbers. They put everybody in all different kinds of places, and they made the seats all much more democratic.
Okay, so
they put a heavy hand on it and made them all democratic.
So you have
not all. But most of them.
Right, so you have a full reset going into the general election, is essentially
totally.
what you're saying.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
But you know where your polling place is for tomorrow, right?
Yeah.
Do you think there's going to be a large election turnout?
Well, see, that's the other thing I'm cautious about. There was a special election for city council here last week, and the very type of voter that is energized to show up for Lamb, college educated, upper middle class, these types of Democrats, the sort of intellectual class, there's only a 15% turnout. So I don't. That's why I'm saying, hey guys, just calm down. I don't know. We're not quite sure who's showing up on Tuesday.
And
in all theories, these are the types of voters who should have showed up en masse, and yet they didn't.
So the fact that this is a statistical dead heat right now going into tomorrow, does that say anything? I know we're focused on Trump, and this is all a proxy vote for Trump. And I know Connor Lamb is, attractive, good profile, and young guy, and all that jazz, and Saccone is not. Is there anything else that we are to potentially extract from this matchup in a district as it's currently constituted, particularly as it pertains to Saccone?
I'm always cautious about making special elections much more important than they are. They're special, especially House elections. Well, people, because of Alabama, people have forgotten that the last five, the only House special elections that have occurred since President Trump has become president, the Republicans have won all of them. But
right,
you have to remember,
right.
Democrats won all of them in 2010, leading up to that midterm, and then got their butts whooped
right
in the November in a historic number, 63 seats. So I'm always leery of saying, oh, this is it. I mean, and everybody's saying it.
Yeah.
But I'm always cautious to say this is, the defining moment. This shows you everything.
Yeah, I think that's probably judicious restraint. She is Salena Zito, Washington Examiner reporter, New York Post columnist, CNN contributor. Salena, thanks as always
for
joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Good luck tomorrow, and with whoever you vote for.
Yeah, wherever you're voting.
Yeah.
And she joined us on our turnkey.pro answer line.
The more you listen,